Hey there, it's Gypsy Chick, and I'm coming to you with the Devil! We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for card number 15, and it has finally arrived. However, before I get into that, I need to go back and refer to the last card we did, which was Temperance, card number 14. I don't know what the hell I was doing when I was going through and picking out the cards, but when I got to my Visconti deck, for whatever reason, the reason why the Visconti Temperance card looked so weird and I couldn't figure out exactly what the symbolism meant or exactly how it tied to Temperance is because that was actually the Moon card, not the Temperance card. I completely ignored the label on the side. I completely ignored the number on it. I don't know what I was doing, but I pulled the Moon card and showed it to you and tried to show it to you as the Temperance card. Folks, this is what the Visconti Temperance card looks like. Looks like a Temperance card. Yeah, so we're all good. It has all of the typical features of a Temperance card. The one thing that is a little weird about this is that there's no water flowing from one to another. In this one, I don't know that that's going to be the case with all of the versions of Visconti. I need to look into this because this has been gilded, so it's a little bit different, but it doesn't look like there's any water coming from one or the other. So, but they are two different types of vases, which I going back now when I was looking at them, I did notice, and I don't think I said anything about it, but in a lot of those cards, the two vessels looked different, especially in the older cards, and here is no exception. You see this one up here, it has a double handle, and this one down here does not at the bottom. Anyway, typical Temperance card. So just so that this deck did not screw up or do anything. I did. It was me. Okay, so back on to the Devil. The Devil card, according to Rachel Pollack in her book 78 Degrees of Wisdom, it represents illusion and oppression. Hi, my Skype just turned on. It also represents materialism, or a kind of being a slave to your vices, is kind of the way that I think of the Devil card. It's okay to indulge yourself once in a while, and that's kind of what I get when I see the Devil card. I don't necessarily, just assume that it is negative or that it's talking about the fact that you're out of control. When I see it in reverse, that's telling me that you really need to pay attention to this card, that maybe things have gone the wrong way. But when I see it upright, a lot of times it just means, don't get hung up and don't miss out on fun, and don't let yourself relax a little bit and go with the flow. If you're, I know like lately I've been trying to get healthier and I've been trying to eat right and stuff like that, so I haven't really been drinking much. But, at the same time, if something comes up and I'm invited to go out with girlfriends, I'm not going to be the stiff one that's sitting there drinking water when everyone else is enjoying some wine just because I don't want the extra calories. Lighten up, Gypsy. I mean, I say that. That's never a problem. I don't have a problem letting go of my own rules in order to enjoy time with friends. Don't get me wrong. But that's an example of, where some people just get so hardcore and wrapped up in the rules and regulations that they place on themselves that sometimes they miss out on opportunities to just enjoy life, to make memories, to have moments. And that's kind of how I take that card. Again, it also depends on the position in the reading. If you're reading and you have certain positions that have certain meanings, you're using a specific spread, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes the Devil card can be a bad thing if it pops up in one of those spots that is designated as this is where things are going wrong, this is where you need to work on things. That could mean I need to bring it in a little bit. So anyway, that is the Devil card. Oh, and also I have another note here. It has I think Rachel, these look like these are probably Rachel Pollack's words, not me, but a misery associated with a shallow existence, which also talks to me about, just the social disconnect that people seem to, experience this day and age. People just kind of float through their lives. They don't pay attention to a lot of things. They don't pay attention to their relationships. They don't pay attention to the details, of their lives on a day-to-day basis. They don't pay attention to spirit. They don't pay attention to their health. People just want to take a pill and go on, and they don't want to put too much thought into anything because that's tiring and it's exhausting and it's overwhelming, and, it's kind of like, get with it, be a survivor, get in the game, get your head in the game, participate. You know, I get so discouraged sometimes whenever I see people just floating through. And you look around in the morning when I'm driving to work in the morning, which I'm sure you guys have joined me several times for that drive. You know, I see so many people in their cars with like their bitch faces on, and they're just driving, and they go to where they're gonna go. We're all like little automaton, you know, little machines just going through the system, and it's kind of like, you know, get in it, get your head in it, be conscious of what's going on, be conscious of the people around you, make eye contact with people, smile at people. You know, it's amazing. If you smile at someone randomly in public, I almost can guarantee you they will smile back, babies included. I make other people's babies laugh and smile all the time, and I don't even have to touch them. You know, it's just, that is joy. You got to do that at least once a day, man. Share your laugh or your smile with someone once a day. Smile a day keeps the devil away. Okay, on to the cards. So, typically, and I'll start with the Visconti because that's one of our oldest ones. And it actually, you know, the devil card hasn't changed just a whole lot, at least not between this particular card and the Pamela Coleman Smith card. Actually, no, I'm going to start with Pamela Coleman Smith card because that's what I always start with. So here it is. Here is the devil in all his glory. The typical, you know, kind of setup here is that we have the devil as the central figure. He's usually presiding over these other two figures. In older cards, they're the same sex, so they look like they could be. In this one, it's obviously two different sexes. We have a man and a woman. We have a representative from both teams. We also see that, and this is another characteristic that's pretty common, is that we see their shackles. If you look real closely, their shackles are not tight. They're not, restricting them in any way. It's almost like they slipped them over their own heads, or they could have anyway. They could certainly slip them off if they chose to. We also have an element of fire, which is very common in the devil card, obviously, because devil, fire, fire! We have it here. Over here, we still have that aspect of growth, which is really, really interesting to me. Her tail looks like a big raspberry or something. And, you know, interestingly, I didn't see that Rachel Pollack mentioned that in her book, where she talked about the tails. One's a fire tail and one's a life tail, which reminds us of what card? That's right, folks, the sun card. So, the Lover's card. It's in the morning, and my brain's not kicked in yet. Reminds us of the Lover's card, where you have that balance between life and you have in the fire. Another thing about the devil card that we see here is that it is also reminiscent of the Magician. We have one hand up, one hand down, but it's not really serving the same purpose. The hand signals here seem to be focused on symbolizing the importance of Earth, you know, making it, I'm trying to recall the words that she used in her book, but basically the thought is where the Magician was pulling down power, grounding himself at the same time. The message from the devil here is that what you see is what you get. This life and what you have in front of you physically is all there is, which, you know, obviously is a very materialistic view, and, you know, I don't prescribe to that thought process, but there's moments where I'm just all wrapped up in my little world. So we have the symbol of Saturn here, which also represents negativity, negative energy. I am just on a roll this morning. And then we have the fire here that's pointing at the earth, which apparently basically symbolizes, you know, this is it. This is material world right here. So he's not drawing up or grounding or anything. Just little other common little characteristics. We have the reverse pentacle here. Of course, for those that associate the human body with the pentacle, that would mean that the genitals would be above the head, thereby putting worldly desires above our intuition and our spiritual side. This devil has horns, and he has the traditional devil wings. We're going to see that in more cards. And another thing I want to draw your attention to before we move on is this pedestal here. In older cards, and I believe it was that BOTA deck, the BOTA deck that I mentioned in the Temperance card, the devil is sitting on or the Magician, I'm sorry, is sitting on a cube. And he is in a couple of other decks, the Magician is perched on a cube. Well, in this one, he is perched on a rectangle, which indicates only a half consciousness. He's only really aware and focused on half of the picture, which is the material physical world. And so we see here that he is perched on it. That is his thing. That's his thing right there. These people are tied to that. And so it's this sense of this half consciousness that everybody here is kind of perpetuating and locked into. Almost literally. All right, so there's the Pamela Coleman Smith card. Did I get everything? Let's have a look-see. Oh, one other thing, black background, which represents the nothingness that comes after the physical world if you don't pay attention to spirit. When you die, that's it, folks. Story's over. If you live solely in the physical realm, it's like you have nothing to look forward to, is kind of the message that I get. There's nothing past this moment right here, which is a lie. Okay, so let's move on to the Visconti Tarot now. So here we see the Visconti Devil, and it's actually not a whole lot different than the Pamela Coleman Smith, so we can see that a lot of the influence or a lot of the aspects of the original devil are actually preserved in the Pamela Coleman Smith card. This devil has the wings, he has the horns, he has the pitchfork. Now, the Pamela Coleman Smith devil does not have the pitchfork. A lot of them did back in the day, or they had some sort of a staff, and you'll see that in my other two older reproduction decks that I have. We still have the element of fire at the bottom. These two figures are not obviously different sexes. I can't tell that they're male and female. They're kind of androgynous in a way. Well, no, they're not. I mean, that one's a male. You got a little something going on. Yeah, nope. They're both males. They're not impressive males, but they're both males. Okay, so we have two just, people here. And they are slaves to their environment. They are slaves to their vices. So we see here that they've, there's no pedestal. This chain is actually joining the two of them together in the presence of the devil. So there's no pedestal yet. That hasn't come in. That was a little bit of a later esoteric addition that they made. Here in the Minchiati deck, which is from around the same time period, 1450, we see that we have a devil here, but there's no figures. We still have the wings, we still have the fire, we still have the pitchfork. This pitchfork is pointing into the ground rather than up into the air. What I love about this card are the serpents. You guys see those serpents? And there's 3 of them. I love that. You know me and the number 3, and I love the snakies, and so I really like this card because I love the snakes. I think it's a beautiful devil card. I actually really like that one. I'm not crazy about the Minchiati deck just because it's so old, it's kind of outdated, but I do like that devil card. Okay, now this is where the pedestal comes in. Now this is my 1750 Universal Marseille reproduction deck, and here we see a trumped up version of this devil. We've gone a little bit more into the symbolism here. So now we have the 2 figures, and again, I think they're both males. You can choose to decide for yourself, but it looks to me like they're both males. And then there's this pedestal that has come into the picture here, and they're both tied to it now. So I guess if you compare the Pamela Coleman Smith to the Versailles Tarot, you're going to see even more similarities. Another thing we see is in the hand, the hand positions. We have that one hand up and one hand down. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the Hierophant earlier. The way that he's holding his hand in that way is reminiscent of the Hierophant also. Because the Hierophant, is making that, whatever that symbol is. Devil's kind of doing that, but different. We have wings, we have horns, and even our little people down here have horns, which I thought was kind of interesting. They have little, kind of pagan-looking branchy horns, not actual horns. And it also, if I'm not mistaken, those look like donkey ears, like maybe the Fool. You remember earlier when we were talking about the Wheel of Fortune? And the ass that was on top that thought he was in control of everything, and that showed a sign of foolishness. And so in some of the Wheel of Fortune cards, we saw that represented as like a donkey or someone dressed as a donkey. I'm seeing that again. I see those little donkey ears, and that makes me think, these are foolish. This is a representation of foolish, weak-minded people that are just a slave to the system. They're just a slave to their vices. If it feels good, do it, and don't question it. Question everything. Okay, so I didn't do a scorecard again because frankly, guys, I'm running out of steam. I'm halfway through. Well, I'm a little over halfway through with the series, and I'm getting tired, and my time is tight. So there's no scorecard again, but I can kind of eyeball at this point and tell you which ones are most similar. And as usual, the Illuminati Tarot really nailed it. It doesn't have the black background, but pretty much everything. Oh, and there's no pedestal. Now this one I think is kind of, you could go into a whole debate about the symbolism in this one as far as versus pedestal versus his belt buckle. Okay, now, first of all, I want to point out this particular devil, is it just me, or does this remind anyone else of the Persian king from 300? Right? Right? Totally looks like him. Look at that. Dude from 300. You know, I wonder if that has to do with sexual addiction, trapped in bad relationships, trapped in relationships for the wrong reasons, you know, or just being engaged in activities that may not be good for you, based on, you know, choices that are motivated by the wrong thing. So anyway, I could go into a whole tirade on that one. But I'm not going to. But we do see the two figures here, and they look a little more tortured than some that we've seen in the other cards. She looks to be, you know, not as miserable, but naked nonetheless. And then we have this guy over here who looks like he's just full of regret and guilt and probably some bad feelings, likely associated with whatever, you know, vices he is indulged in. This devil looks very powerful. We don't have the hand signals like we have in the Pamela Coleman Smith card. We do have a throne rather than a pedestal, and there's this red fabric kind of in the background back here. Like, I guess he's kind of sitting on it in his throne. And you know me and the color red, love it. That stands, you know, that's the color of passion, and passion can be dangerous if you don't keep it under control. So, there you go, Eric Dunn. Good job on that. Next, we have the Tarot of the Hidden Forest, Magical Forest. As usual, it's like a cute version. We did get our pentacle back, which was missing in the Illuminati Tarot, so we have our pentacle up there at the top. And then we have our little devil skeleton with his little wings and his little pointy tail. Both his hands are up, so we don't have that same kind of symbolism like we did from the other cards. And then we have our two little poodle figures here that are tied down. And they've kind of, this is interesting because they've kind of got this stare off into space. Like, you know, like I was saying earlier with the drone effect, you know, it's like, are they really in there? It's like the lights are on, but nobody's home. They're not really, I don't think their heads are really fully in the game. I think they are just inundated with distractions and are just floating through. Light Gray Tarot. Now this one had a really cool devil card, and I really, really like it. I really have I have mixed feelings about this deck because I don't like not having that continuity. The Light Gray Tarot is an indie deck, and it is done by different artists, so every card is done by a different artist and has a different style. That messes with me when I'm, you know, if I'm trying to do a reading, I got to have continuity because certain artists use different symbolisms in different ways, and they're usually consistent through their deck. With this, you're not going to have that. So, yeah. But as a single card study, I love including the Light Gray Tarot because some of the cards are awesome. This is one of them. This is their devil card. We have that flaming torch like we saw in the Pamela Coleman Smith deck. This person did their homework, at least in regards to Arthur Waite's impression of the devil card. So here we have the flaming torch. We have him sitting there. We have horns, and he actually has a goat head. This is goat-esque, you know, with the ears and the, you know, crazy face. Some of these other devils were more of a human, you know, nature. This is obviously a dude. It's a creepy dude, but it's a dude. And then, you know, this one, I guess the Magical Forest, you start to embark on animals, but this whole deck is animals. Here we have just this goat-headed man. You know, it's like we got a man with a really nice body here, and then, nope. Anyway, loving this devil card. I think it's really pretty. It doesn't have all of the symbolism that a lot of them do, but I think it's still a beautiful piece of artwork. Next we have the Revelations Tarot. This one I really, really like because it has the two, you know, this one's cool for reversals. This is like the reversal reader's dream. Upright, here we have the devil, and he is sitting here. We have this building here in the background, which I see as, you know, kind of that little bit of structure that you may have in your life. There is fire and destruction, it looks like, everywhere in the background, sort of. We've got our pentacle. He's looking straight ahead. A lot of these devil cards, the devil's just looking right at you. That was something I forgot to mention earlier, so watch for that too. And a lot of these cards, the devil's looking right at you. Pamela Coleman Smith, the Visconti, Marseille, and then we have the light gray tarot. They're all looking they're looking out of the card at you. This is no different. This one's looking at you almost like, taunting you. And then we have the two figures on either side here. Here we have the money flowing, and, he's smoking a cigarette. Now, if you look at the reversal, it's like they've broken out. They've broken out of that cycle of addiction, of that, that unconscious just moving forward and not really paying attention to what's going on. And then you see in the background here this building. It's almost like a pre-tower card. We see this breaking up here, and things are falling apart, breaking the cycle, breaking out of that addiction, I think, is the main thing here. And also, if you look here, the money is stacking up. So rather than spending it and giving in to your desires, you've got a little more control here. The devil has gotten control, and here it's almost like, I don't know if that's like a victorious stance or if he's going no, because that awareness has come to a head, and the inhibitions have been brought back in a little bit. So, I mean, I'm sorry, the inhibitions. What am I trying to say? The inhibitions. I don't know what I'm trying to say. The hesitancy. Forget that. I don't even know what I'm saying. Now, the Tarot of the Hidden Realm is a pretty cool looking devil card, and I like it because it still has that reminiscent feeling of the Lovers card, like we see in Pamela Coleman Smith's card and in the Marseille deck. Here we have the two figures, but they're not chained. They don't even really look all that trapped. They are bonded to each other, but not in a shackled way. And then we have, of course, the devil here in the forefront, who just looks mischievous, and I like that one. But anyway, here is the Tarot of the Hidden Realm. And then next we have the the Tarot of Vampires. Sorry, I always say them backwards. Vampire Tarot, whatever. You know what I mean. We've all seen this. We've all seen this deck already. It's the Ian Daniels Vampire of Tarots. That's what I just said. Yeah. Anyway, again, we have the two figures. These are same-sex again. They're not a man and a woman. Well, it's hard to tell. I mean, I guess technically the one that's higher up could be a male. You don't see any boobies, but, it's kind of androgynous, I guess. I think the thought is that it's another female, though, because she's dressed just like this one down here, which is obviously a female. So we have the kind of the beast, here. And, again, they're not necessarily trapped, but you see that there is that sense of being kind of dependent. You have a sense of dependency. You also have that raptured feeling, that passionate feeling, again, that we got, especially with the Illuminati Tarot. And so anyway, it's also got this cool little fire pot here in the background, and I love that. It's got that color red. It brings that fire aspect into it. And then on there, it's really hard to see in my camera, but there's an upside down pentacle right there. I chipped my nail polish just for you guys. I can't keep nothing nice. Okay, so next we have Shadowscapes Tarot. And again, we have this devil as the central figure. So now we're moving away from the ones that have the figures with them on the side, and now we're looking at cards that just have the devil on them, which is more like what we saw in the Minchiati Tarot. We saw just the devil by himself. We're going to go through a group of those now. So here is the Shadowscapes Tarot. Now you do see this figure here at the bottom. You see that trapped figure right here. So there is one figure. Actually, now that I say that, I think these have one figure with them, because I'm looking at the next one in the queue and the next one in the queue, and they have an extra person, but there's only one person instead of two. So this person, does have that trapped sense of being trapped, even though, really, I mean, they're not. There's no cage. There's no, there's nothing really keeping them in that circle. What I really like about this devil card is it appeals to my cynicism when it comes to romance, because there's still that connection to the Lovers card, and how, and I kind of, in my mind, I perceive that as, even being in a relationship, being bonded to someone that closely can sometimes feel trapped, feel like you're trapped, like there's no way out. It's like you're in it and there's no escape. I don't know if any of you guys feel that way. I have moments where I'm like, I'm like a cat in a box. I'm freaking out. But in this card especially, I want you to notice the devil's hands up here. He has got a web, like a spider's web, and it has a heart in it. And, you know, on one hand, it has that sense of, you know, being trapped in general, your spirit being trapped by something, whether it's a mental issue that you're dealing with, or if it's an emotional issue that you're dealing with, or if, I guess mental and emotional would go together. If you're physically trapped in some way, in a situation maybe, you know, and so there's different ways to perceive that. I see that as, you know, that feeling, that bond. You know, for me, this represents that bond between two people that is extremely, extremely strong. And when things are great, it's a good thing. It's a comforting thing, and it's happy, but it's soothing, it's calming. But then there are other times when, you know, it can be stifling, and it can feel very heavy, and it can be like a burden. And so I see that as, you know, kind of representing that in a different way, without necessarily having two lovers. You know, maybe this person is just lovesick and they're alone now. They've lost their other half, and they just feel distraught. And, you know, they feel like there's no coming back, but that's not always the case. So, again, you know, very cool card. This devil is wicked cool. Still has that half goat. It's hard to see again, but the goat legs here, and then he's got his crown, his horns up here at the top. So we kind of, again, we have kind of that beast type of a character. It's not, you know, it's not a man, but it's not an animal. It's kind of halfway in between. I love Shadowscapes Tarot. All right, the devil in the Tarot of the, what is it? Oh, Legacy of the Divine Tarot. We have another one that has the dominant, what we see as being the devil figure here with his pentacle. Yeah, it is. Yeah. With his upside down pentacle. What is that, a cape holder? And then we have, I don't know what they're, I don't know, I'm sure it's got a name. We'll call it a brooch. His little pentacle brooch. And then we have here, now if you're familiar with this deck at all, you recognize this is the Fool, and he appears in various cards throughout this tarot deck, and it just kind of basically goes along with that theory of the Fool's journey and how the Fool goes through each different major arcana, learning lessons along the way. And so here we see he is basically trapped by his own dark side. You know, this devil here also is the Fool. This is the same guy. But here, he's the helpless, you know, real self, or whatever, inside self. And this is, whatever he has taken on has become bigger than himself. He has let it grow until it's like a giant. And again, with the magician illusion, we have all of the suits here. We have a cup and a sword and the pentacle, or coin, I guess, in this deck, and then the wand. And they're all hanging from his fingers, which are very claw-like and creepy. His jester hat has gone a little dark too, and we see kind of this mechanical, kind of bionic looking thing going on. And you know, again, we have the astrology symbols up here, alchemical symbols for Saturn. We saw that in the Vampire Tarot too. I just forgot to bring it up, but there are symbols for Saturn in there. And again, I love Ciro Marchetti's use of the hourglass. I think that is super cool. So you see that down here at the bottom. Lots of great imagery in this card. You know, I love this deck. I love Ciro Marchetti decks, period, but this one really is an awesome, awesome deck. So there's that one. And then we have, I'm doing all three of his right now, actually, because his all have one figure in them for the Devil card. This one is the Tarot of Dreams. And so here we have the upside down pentacle is very big. We see it burning right there as the background kind of focal point thing. And then we have, which is very similar to Shadowscapes, we have the devil up here kind of presiding over things, and he has his arms outstretched, and he's, you know, looking very dominant. And then down here we have the Fool, you know, again, we have our Fool again. He's got his little Fool hat on, but if you look, the door is open. So again, we are seeing that same sense of not literally being trapped, not literally being held down, but figuratively. This guy is letting himself, he's sitting in this cage, but there's nothing making him stay inside that cage other than the fact that he believes that he is trapped. And that is where the devil gets his power. That's where addiction gets its power. That's where, harmful relationships and dominant partners, that's where they get their power. We give it to them. We give in to our addictions. We give in to our impulses. We give in to our own perceptions of what we see as our own weaknesses. And we end up getting ourselves in a situation that we don't think we can get ourselves out of. Not a good place to be. And I like this card because it shows that true desperation. And it actually reminds me of the Illuminati tarot, because you saw the man that was knelt down and all kind of folded down on himself. And this is very similar to that. It gives you that same feeling of just real hopelessness. Okay, last zero card. This is the Gilded Tarot Royale, which is the upgraded version of the Gilded Tarot. And I just think this is like the dead sexiest devil card ever. I love it. I like his little helmet with his pentacle on it. And I really like his muscles. Also, a really cool thing about this card is you see that fire. We have the fire again. And it's hard to see in my camera. But there is a man's figure here. It's like he's dancing in the flames. So I don't know if you can see that. I don't know how I feel about that as far as being trapped. This card actually gives me a sense of there's an underlying freedom there. And again, I haven't really worked with this deck a whole lot. It's the one I started when I was learning, but I've learned a lot more about tarot since I first started working with this deck. And I, on a first impression, I'm going to just blurt out, I don't really get a trapped feeling, more of a feeling of intimidation. And so, that right here, his helmet, his eyes are covered, but I mean, he has kind of an ominous presence, very definitely a dominant presence. But, for me personally, I don't intimidate easily. So for me personally, seeing this image doesn't make me feel intimidated, but I can see where that is trying to be communicated. I'm trying to think of what type of person intimidates me. I don't really know off the top of my head. I guess I would have to actually be engaged in an intimidating situation. People that try to intimidate me, that I know are trying to pull off this thing right here, annoy me. But they don't really intimidate me. They just kind of piss me off. So, maybe that would work better. Maybe that message is being received clearer for others. For me, I need to, this works. I'm going to need shackles. I'm going to need very clear, you are in control. Because just staring at me with a look, with your helmet on. Okay, so you have on a helmet. Whatever. Doesn't intimidate me. Now, if he was 75 feet tall, looking at me like that, yeah, I'd probably get intimidated. But I wouldn't care what you were wearing, or if you were wearing anything, or what kind of helmet you had on, I would probably be intimidated. It would be like a little bug. Okay, El Diablo from the 1977 Alchemy Tarot. Really, gargoyles were kind of seen as guardians, as far as I understand the lore of the gargoyle. So, representing it as a devil, kind of a stretch. I mean, if you don't know that they're supposed to be guardians, maybe it wouldn't bother you. I do, and so I don't really see this as being very guardian-like. It's definitely dark. This is a dark deck. I like the angel. I like the contrast. I like the contrast of the good and the evil, the light and the dark, the angel and the devil. I think that's kind of a neat touch. And we definitely get a sense of being trapped. We get a sense of weakness. We do get that of succumbing to your fate kind of a thing, and not fighting whatever it is the situation is. So cool representation there in the 1977 Alchemy England Tarot. Next we have steampunk. Now these are devils that are represented in other ways. They're not quite as devilly as some of the other ones that we've seen. They're just blatant devils. I mean, they're just devils. That's a devil. There's no other way to look at that. So this is actually a monster. And what I really like about this is you have this big mechanical monster in the background, and you've got this guy with this big giant wrench, and he is actually repairing this machine, it looks like. And I want to draw your attention to something else, and it's really hard to see in this card, but this monster has got some marionette strings coming off of its hands, and they are leading to these people that are actually fixing it. And this guy is loading the coal here into this, into the power source, thereby giving him more strength. So the devil by nature is a controller. The devil made you do it. I hear it every day. I have kids. The devil made me do it. So here it is. The devil is making them do it. And they are just following his orders. And the more they follow, the stronger and better put together he gets. And that's exactly how these sorts of, giving into vices, when you give into your vices all the time, they start to tear you down. You start to lose control of your impulse control. You start to lose control of who you are and your sense of yourself, and you become just basically a slave to whatever it is that you're succumbing to. I love the steampunk rendition. I love the marionette thing. And Paulina Cassidy actually did it also in her deck with the Joie de Vivre Tarot. And so here we see this cool little Mad Hatter looking guy. This is like the most whimsical, like Wonderland looking deck that I have. I love her deck. Well, aside from the Paulina Tarot, but that one's more like the New Orleans Mardi Gras. This is more like Wonderland, Cuckoo Land that she has going here. I like this. We've got the pedestal back here. We have a trunk, which kind of like Pandora's box, I think. And then we have the puppet there, which represents, the humanity. This represents the figure that we would see in the other cards. And then here we have our devilish little hatter cat. And he's got control. And again, we see the heart with the marionette. You see the heart there? And then, oh, and this is interesting. I didn't notice this before. It's got scissors in its hand. The puppet has a pair of scissors. So at any time, he could cut his strings and be free. But obviously, he hasn't done it. He's still dancing around to whatever the devil wants him to do. Oh, and this is cool. The devil, these are little heads. You see all these little circles here? Those are little heads. Nasty. Okay, and then the other Paulina Cassidy is the Paulina Tarot, and that's this one here. I love this devil card. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck. I just love it. It looks like a party scene. We have a Mardi Gras Victorian party thing going on here. And the devil's just chilling on his trunk. Again, she's done the trunk again. That's what they're sitting on here. And then the lady, looks kind of like a woman of ill repute, a lady of the night. She looks like a whore. And so here we have, but you can see that she is actually shackled to the devil. So just like we saw in the really early Visconti Tarot, where the two figures are actually shackled to each other, not to a pedestal, we see that again here, except instead of between two different figures aside from the devil, this lady is actually attached to the devil. She is a slave to her whims. And we see here, he has got money, which is another big distraction. We've got money here. So he's holding that in his arm. And then he's got his other arm around her, it looks like. And let's see here. Yeah, she's got money shoved in the top of her little bustier there, so hooker. I'm just kidding. But anyway, no, I'm not. But anyway, cool devil card. I like it a lot. This video does not do it justice. This is an awesome looking card. Alright, now we have the Archeon Tarot. Now these don't have figures. We're done with figures. We don't have any more extra people. These are the ones that are the devil all by himself, like we saw in the Minchiati deck. So, and I gotta tell you, I struggle with having that trapped feeling. I need a little more symbolism in my representation. So this set that I'm going to show you, in general, kind of like the Cyril Marchetti one that was just the devil with the helmet on, I don't get the same sense of being trapped. I have a foreboding image of a devil that gives you that, ooh, it's a devil card, But when I'm reading for someone and I'm explaining that, I want them to be able to understand it also, and I feel like when the devil is all by himself in the picture, we kind of lose some of that. And so these aren't my favorites, even though the artwork on them I like. a lot, but as far as if I was going to be reading with them in a deck, these particular devil cards, in my opinion, are lacking just a little bit because they don't have that. There's no victim. There's no person putting themselves in the devil's way, and so there's that. Okay, Archeon Tarot. Again, I kind of like this devil. He's kind of cute. He's kind of sinister, but a little sexy at the same time. His wings are drawn. It's really hard to. This is a weird tarot deck. The artwork is kind of different. These wings are actually look like they're like blueprint drawings, but then they kind of are back there, and he could, for all I know, be just a satyr standing there next to a line drawing of some wings. Kind of what it looks like. But it's a cool image nonetheless. I do like the light and dark side of this card. We have illumination here, but then here it's kind of stops. I'm always looking for balance and opposites, and so I like that about this card. Next we have the Devil from the Deviant Moon Tarot, and this is obviously the borderless one, and this is just a cool card. As far as reading for it, honestly, as for the Devil card, I don't get the sense of trappedness, but I kind of, prefaced this whole section by saying that. So that is my issue with this. But as far as just being a picture of the devil, it's a pretty wicked cool card. And then we have the Vertigo Tarot. And this is as usual, it's kind of creepy. They did keep some cool things though. We do get we get a sense of heat, of fire, even though there's not really any blatant actual flames. But one thing I do like about this is that even though it's a devil by himself, we still have a chain here. So it's like the devil is representing himself as well as what those other figures represented in those cards. He is his own victim in this card. We are, we're our own devils. The devil's not making us do it. We're making us do it. The devil's not making me stay in this relationship. I'm staying in this relationship. The devil didn't make me spend a bunch of money. I spent a bunch of money. So it goes back to, the feeling of it's, in a lot of these cards, the devil is this aspect that we fall into in our own psyche. This kind of brings it back together into one little thing where we see that, we are our own devil. We are our own bad influence, period. Because ultimately our choices are ours, no one else's. So if we choose to continue to, drink away our problems, or if we continue to take those smoke breaks every 30 minutes, those are choices we're making consciously. No one's making us do it. We're not being influenced by anything other than our own psyche, and ultimately our own weaknesses are what make us fall into these patterns and feel like we're unable to break them, even though we really are. Next we have the Steampunk Tarot, and this is awesome. Sorry. Steampunk Gods the Machine is what this one is. Not Steampunk Tarot, but yeah, basically kind of. Steampunk Gods the Machine. I like this one. Again, we have what do you call it? Not android. Is it android? Cyborg looking guy. That's Cyborg. That's what I was trying to think of. It's a machine person. It's not even really a cyborg. It's straight up android. It is. I just call it an android. And this android actually, has this mask that he wears. So he poses as the devil, but this is his true self, and he does feel emotion because we see him crying here. So he has an aspect of humanity to him. We also see this girl back here. I see this as, possibly trying to capture that humanity, trying to hold on to it, and trying to identify with it. And we see her chain follows all the way down here, and it stops. So she is not actually, her hands are bound. But this chain is not, she's not like nailed down. You know what I mean? Her chair, it looks like she possibly could probably get up and walk away if she wanted to. And I haven't read the guidebook for this, as I've mentioned in other videos, so I don't get the full meaning of this card, all by itself, but I do like it. It does appeal to me. I like the fact that it's so different from a lot of the devil cards that we see. So it's cool. It's different, but it's a good different. I think it's probably a pretty cool different. The Wildwood Tarot, I'm not real crazy about this particular devil card. I mean, it's a cool picture and all, but, and I guess you do kind of you could perceive that there is a sense of entrapment because he is standing in front of a cave. So obviously, if you're in that cave, you got to pass the gnarly beast skeleton before you can get out, which is kind of a deterrent. You know, I guess you could probably interpret this as, you know, facing your worst fear, taking it head on and tackling it head on, not being afraid of what you feel or what you see, just doing what you know is right. You know, I mean, you could go there with this card, but again, it's not my favorite. And you know what though? I just realized this is called the Guardian, which is really interesting because what did we talk about earlier? 1977 tarot. We have this Guardian, which is the gargoyle, and then here we have one that is blatantly called the Guardian. So I'm thinking I might need to read up because there's something to that. That's the second one now that's got that Guardian aspect, which is really interesting. Guardian. I'm going to have to work on that one a little bit. You guys think about that. Let me know what you think about the having a devil also seen as a sort of a guardian. How do you feel? How does that work out in your mind? Because I think there's something there. I'm on camera right now, and I don't want to take up your time while I'm trying to think it through. But I think there's something to that. I just need to think it through. Okay, Wild Unknown. Everybody loves this deck right now, including myself. Here is that devil card. Absolutely love it. It's one of my favorites in this deck. I think that, you know, it's really cool that she used an Angora goat for the representation of the devil. I love that its little hooves are on fire. You know, again, I love this deck's artwork. I haven't worked with it that much. I don't know about the feeling trapped. We do have a black background, so the goat is very alone looking. And it's, you know, its hooves are on fire. Do I feel like that makes it feel trapped? I don't know that it's trapped. So I struggle with that. I struggle with the feeling of being trapped in a cycle, or succumbing to some sort of a weakness. As much as I love this image's representation, when it comes to actually the meaning of the card, I struggle to pull that from the image. But again, that may come with time. I just really haven't worked with this deck as much as I would like to. The Hobbit Tarot actually did a good job with the Devil card. This one is actually very, very cool. We see a dragon spitting fire over a small village, which we'll call it, well, it can't be a hobbit village. I don't know what that is. I don't know where those people live. I don't know what it is. I haven't read the books. But I think it's a pretty cool card. You know, feeling trapped? Yeah, I mean, you know, if your house is on fire and you can't get out the door, you're trapped. You know, did they set it themselves? Is this fire, was it started by the dragon? Or was it started by the other people by being careless and it summoned the dragon? I don't know. I'm throwing ideas out there. Y'all know how I feel about the Hobbit deck. At this point, on the 15th card of the Major Arcana, I just really don't care anymore. Bohemian Gothic Tarot. Now this is a really cool one, and I talked about this when we did our Spread This Witches video when we talked about the dark cards. I really like this one because we have a blatant example of someone who is succumbing to their weaknesses and giving into their vices. And so you see here, we see this is perceived as being the devil here. It's this woman that's got this red hair, so we have that kind of fire illusion there. And she's got a needle in her. Now, knowing the time period of this, I'm going to say that this was very likely some sort of an opiate, because that was kind of the thing back then. And so anyway, this has got a really cool kind of vibe to it, and it definitely gets across the message of the devil, without a doubt. Okay, and the last card that I have to show you guys for today is the Inner Realms Tarot, and this one's pretty cool. You know, again, it doesn't have the images that I like in it, but it does have the upside down pentacle, so good for sticking on that one. Sometimes this card doesn't have anything at all to do with the card itself or the traditional meaning. This one does. It has compulsion, loss, addiction, and ego, which are things that I've kind of mentioned over and over. I don't know that I mentioned ego, but that's a good one, and that's something else to keep in mind because that can screw us up. If you get too absorbed in yourself and you take credit for too much, you start losing credibility altogether. So I really like this card, you know, as far as the you know, just the vibe of it. But do I feel like, you know, let's be honest, I'm never going to read with this deck, but I think it's a cool image in either way. I wouldn't mind having this poster on my wall, especially with the black light on. Be awesome. Okay, guys, that's all I have for the Devil card. Please don't hesitate to share your thoughts, and be sure and go visit my Facebook page if you haven't already. I'm trying to get lots of followers on there. I'm trying to post more. And eventually, when I get done with this series, I'm thinking about going back and doing some blogging. But after this series is over, I have decided I am totally going to take a break for a while. I'm going to focus on Lenormand for a bit. And once I get feeling good again, I'm going to come back and start making videos again. But first I've got to finish this series. So 16 cards down and a few more to go. I don't do math. You guys have a great night, and I will talk to you later. Blessed be.